Hi, Pamela. Hi, Rosa. Good to
Uh,
see you both.
Anita, always good to see you.
Oh, thank
Hi
you. Thank you.
there.
Hi,
Welcome.
how are you? Thank you. All right. I'll keep myself muted. You said what time, around what time do I come in?
The program will start about 11:40.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Congratulations, new co-chairs.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
It's really a pleasure to work with Rosa. For those of you who remember, Rosa and I were co-chairs of the NGO CSW Forum a number of biennium ago, and it was a pleasure to work with her then. So we look,
Likewise.
yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nkechi. Good to see you. All right, people are still coming in. We'll wait another minute and then we'll get started. We have a full agenda today. An excitingly full agenda, right, Rosa?
Yes, we do. A lot.
And while we're waiting, please introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us who you are, what country you're coming from. And the program for today is in the chat.
Yes, I'm Anna Brewer and I'm from Montana in the United States.
Welcome, Anna. Thank you for being here. And Kayla from Philadelphia, Dr. Nkechi from the UK. Beth is from Atlanta, Indonesia. Dilla, good to see you again. Good morning, Janet and Julie. So, Rose, I think we can get started.
Let's do.
Right. I'm Pamela Morgan. I am the newly elected co-chair of NGO CSW New York. This is my second term, and I welcome you. We have so much work to do, and I know that together we can achieve a lot through solidarity. Rosa?
Good morning. Buenos dias. Bonjour. Hello to everyone. A warm welcome as we kick off our CSW 7-day monthly meeting series and our CSW work. So first of all, I just want to say I'm honored to be joining Pamela as co-chair. Thank you so much for the invitation and working along a fabulous board, an executive committee of the NGO CSW New York, which we'll introduce shortly. I think that I hope you sense our enthusiasm and appreciation for our work here, our meeting today. It's not lightly that we say we are living in unsettling times in the world, at a time of reform at the UN, the CSW in review and revitalization in this country and elsewhere, times of flux. But as the challenges mount, so do we double our efforts to face them, and we surpass them by working together and not alone or feeling alone. So we're here and we will be here every month, if not more, to broadcast, to bring deep discussion, pertinent issues, a space for sharing, a space for inspiration and networking. So this is what the times call for. And so together we move forward as a movement. And so let's move on with the program. And back to you.
Thank you, Rosa. And this is the first time that we've met since June, and so much has happened. And we have much to be grateful for. We've lost some people in that 3-month period. And what we'd like to do now is just to take a moment of silence to reflect on our lives and on our work and on those things that we hold dear, with the hope that we can bring all the positive energy that we need to prevail. So now we're going to ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. And I'm going to turn the program over to Rosa for co-chair's updates.
Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to start introducing our EC members, beginning with our officers. So Jillian D'Souza Nazareth from the Red Dot Foundation is our treasurer, and maybe we can get her spotlit here. Marlene McLean from Seroptimus International is our communication secretary. Ivy Cook will continue as ex officio on the board. Hello. And we have 3 new members. Amy Banker from Pan Pacific and Southeast Asian Women's Association International. We have Kesia Gonzalez, International Union for Land Value Taxation. We have Emily Van Vleck from the Business and Professional Women International. And we continue with our wonderful members, Lily and Kuzimana from the Baha'i International Community, Fotini Papaguiotti from the International Center for Research on Women. And this is our board. This is our wonderful board. I think that some were coming in late, so we don't have them spotlit here, but we are here. We're very excited, very enthused, a solid group of wonderful, diverse women. So let's give them all a great round of applause. Thank you so much for serving with us. Thank you. So just in terms of what we've done recently, we held 2 board retreats this summer in June, before we had some new members, and then again in August. And the August one was a full day, really looking at planning for the future as far as information that we had in terms of the CSW 70. As you know, our theme for this coming CSW is ensuring and strengthening access to justice for all women and girls, including by promoting inclusive and equitable legal systems, eliminating discriminatory laws, policies, and practices, and addressing structural barriers. And here for us, the elemental words are access to justice, because that can be interpreted in very many different ways. And the review theme for CSW 70 is women's full and effective participation and decision-making in public life, as well as the elimination of violence for achieving gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, as agreed in the agreed conclusions of the 65th session. So this issue of eliminating violence against women and girls is something that we've put forth very strongly in CSW revitalization recommendations to have as a standing issue. So we're very happy to be able to have that for the review theme. I think if you know, you go to the CSW 70 website, we will see the Bureau of the CSW for the coming year. And we have leading the Bureau as chair, Her Honorable Excellency Maritza Chan Valverde of Costa Rica. She is an ally. She is someone we've worked with before. She's a female head of delegation, so we're thrilled about her as chair. There's also Miss Sama Dabuk from Lebanon as vice chair, Mr. Noah Oweri from Liechtenstein as a vice chair, Ms. Andrea Mokanu from Romania, and Ms. Flavia Umulisa from Rwanda. So that is our the bureau that we will be working with. And one more update I think is to mention that the Advocacy and Research Group, which works every year to develop recommendations for the CSW, will continue this year. We have a fantastic team that has already started to look at the priority theme. In this past year, we focused on CSW revitalization because it was also the most prevalent issue that we were facing this year. And we decided to continue to monitor CSW revitalization, but we needed to focus on the CSW 7-day priority theme. So we will be working towards developing a statement to submit to UN Women in mid-October. We'll hear more about this from our UN Women representative shortly. And then we're going to work to develop recommendations for the CSW to be able to deliver to all member states, all in the Bureau, and to be able to do advocacy with them. So with that, I will turn back to you, Pamela. Thank you. And if there are any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them throughout the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa, for those updates. Based on the information that we have now, CSW 70 will take place from 9th of March to the 20th of March. We intend to move forward with the CSW 70 forum as we have in the past. And we intend to move forward with parallel events as we have. We will have 2 locations, the Church Center, as well as Salvation Army. And we will have 5 blocks of time per day as we did last year. So 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And we will, in fact, we're going to have 6 because we're going to go to 8 o'clock. So we'll have 6 slots per day for parallel events, and they will be offered again on a first come, first served basis, just as we did last year. So what that means is keep your eyes peeled for the date that we are going to announce them, because it's going to be highly competitive to get the time and date of your choice. Just as we did last year, it's going to be first come, first serve. Again, as we did last year, we will have in-person as well as virtual events. And those applications will be, we anticipate that the applications will be announced the middle of October. We're just waiting to make sure that CSW revitalization and UN 80 are both resolved before we move forward. And if you have any questions for us, again, please put your questions in the chat and we will respond. We have such a tight schedule today. We don't have a lot of time right now to go back and forth with questions. However, we will respond. And at this time, we're going to have a poll. We have 2 questions in our poll. How many of you are here for the first time? How many people are here for the first time. I've been to many meetings. I've been to a few meetings. This is my first meeting. Another minute for those of you who, and Melanie, welcome. So it looks like most of you are veterans, NGO CSW veterans. Thank you for coming back. And to those of you, we have 24%, 23 people who are new to this community. We welcome you, we value you, and we hope to stand in solidarity with you as we move forward. The second poll is, who is familiar with the priority theme? Who is familiar with the concept of access to justice? And we know that access to justice is categorical. We look at access to justice in the workplace and our social endeavors, access to justice and educational endeavors. It's a very broad topic. So are you familiar with that? And it looks like 76% of those in attendance are familiar with access to justice. And for those of you who are not, hopefully, by the time you leave here today, you will understand the challenges with access to justice in the workplace. All right. One other announcement, and thank you for participating in our 2 polls. One other announcement is that, as we did last year, we're going to have 2 member-led meetings. NGO CSW meets 9 times throughout the year with our membership. We do not meet in March. We meet from September to June. And we have 2 meetings that member organizations can lead. Excuse me. The November meeting, which will be held on the 18th of November, is looking at the mobilization of men and boys. That will be the topic. If your organization is interested in hosting the meeting, focusing on the mobilization of men and boys in order to move forward the women's agenda, we ask you to please apply. And there is a link in the chat for the application, and the link will be sent out in a newsletter. The second meeting is the 20th of January, and the topic is going to be eliminating discriminatory laws, practices, and policies. So dues-paying member organizations can sign up to host either of those 2 meetings. And what does that mean? It means that you have the program side, a 30-minute panel or roundtable with a 20-minute Q&A, and your organization would be able to host that. So please, the link is in the chat. We'll be sending out the link, and we hope that your organization, your member organization, will participate. At this time, I'd like to introduce our executive committee member and the chair of the NGO committee on CSOCD, Giulia D'Souza Nazareth, who is going to speak to us about the World Social Summit. And we're so proud of Jillian and her new role. Let's give Jillian a big hand.
I have to say, I feel solidarity and support from this group so much. So thank you to my NGO CSW family. Thank you to Rosa and Pam especially. So hi, everyone. My name is Giulia D'Souza Nazareth. As Pam said, I'm privileged to serve on NGO CSW as treasurer. I'm very grateful, and I also serve as the chair of the NGO Committee for Social Development. And this year, this is a very big year for the committee, and this is because the Second World Social Summit for Social Development, or WSSD2, as the UN system likes to call it, will take place in Doha, Qatar this year from the 4th to the 6th November to promote inclusive social development. The Civil Society Forum will take place between the 5th and the 6th at the same venue of the summit, and is a space for civil society organizations from across the globe to contribute their vision, expertise, and advocacy. This year, the UN system is calling what they call solution sessions, or as we know it as parallel/side events, will be held across the 3 days. In addition, we will have featured events which will form the basis of the Civil Society Forum. Special accreditation for this event is now closed, but applications via ECOSOC accredited organizations is still open and will remain open till the 30th of September. The UN system has been fairly generous this year and has upped allocation of up to 15 applicants per ECOSOC organization, and therefore we don't foresee any issues with access to the event itself. So the Commission for Social Development, as many of you may know, is a functional commission of ECOSOC. It was established in 1946, and the commission has been the guiding influence on the global conversation for social progress, focusing on issues of poverty eradication, employment, and social integration. This commission is the principal body monitoring and advancing the outcome of the Social Summit for Social Development. And at the heart of this history is the Copenhagen Declaration and Program for Action, which was adopted at the first summit in 1995. There, the governments made 10 landmark commitments ranging from poverty eradication, full employment, to fostering social inclusion. These commitments continue to be the foundation of global social development agenda, similar to how we follow the Beijing Platform for Action. The Civil Society Forum in Doha is building directly on this legacy. It is where the NGO committee has designed a civil society forum where we will host 10 featured events, each one aligned to a commitment of the Copenhagen Declaration. These events were open to host from civil society across the globe. And I'm happy to say that we had a response, a really excellent response of over 100 coalitions and groups to participate and host the event. There was a strong, impartial, and rigorous application progress and a judging process. Successful applicants will be informed this week. We also have planned the second informational session around events on the social summit, which will happen tomorrow. I'm sharing the link to register in the chat box. This will include updates from the host nation of Qatar, as well as the UN DESA system on overall planning of the summit, which is really more than just the civil society forum, obviously. What exactly is the outcome or the purpose or the expectation of the summit? So it is going to be a political declaration, which is how it follows, which is how the commission really follows. Now, for the purpose of those who are not familiar, we have Rev 2, which is already public knowledge. We have gone through Rev 3, and I'm happy to say that Rev 3 has survived 2 levels of silence procedure. The second one has not been broken. And so, for all intents and purposes, we do have an in principle agreed declaration in draft form by the members 2 months ahead of the summit. This is really big for the UN system, as all of you know, how they, negotiate till the absolute end. It has also put a little question in some of our minds Like, what happens if a member breaks silence between now and November, right? Because it's a little bit of a gray area. But for the moment, silence is not broken, which means we expect it to get adopted in November during the summit. A few bits of perspective so that since I read the document, you don't have to. The document is 17 pages, but it leans a lot on previously agreed conclusions. So it leans on, recalls, reaffirms the original Copenhagen Declaration. It leans on the Addis Ababa Platform for Action. It calls on achievement of the Pact for the Future, for achievement of Agenda 2030, the LDC conference. And by doing that, I think what the member states have managed to do is not renegotiate on past or try to relitigate or reopen items that have been previously agreed on. They then come up with a whole second level on action items or action agenda, wherein they've put in new items which may not have been applicable 30 years ago. For example, the digital divide, AI, more focus on the care economy, focus on intergenerational solidarity and engagement. And that's where you see them putting in a lot of, the new items. I won't say that this is, really revolutionary, groundbreaking, really serious commitments, because it's not. But I think they have found this level of a middle ground. What is new and what I hope stays in the final version is their closing statement, which I put in the chat here for you to see, where they talk about the fact of political will, concrete action. And that would seem the overarching bit of where they are trying to, thread the needle, so to speak. And so this is the plan. This is as far as we are at. And I hope to see many of you in Doha. And I pass back to Rosa and Pam.
Fantastic. Thank you for that comprehensive overview. And again, if people have questions, please put them in the chat so that we will be able to address them. At this time, we have exciting news. And Rosa, do you want to introduce our slogan?
Okay. Well, we were thinking as co-chairs and as executive committee members that, we really do want to reignite, reinvigorate the movement, our women's movement, our feminist movements, our youth movement, our women in all their diversity movement, to be able to just keep pushing back on the pushback and to really push forward. So what we are wanting to do is to introduce a slogan for us that will be able to recharge us, to be able to leave this meeting and every meeting that we have with just enthusiasm and hope and excitement for what we're doing, to really push us, inspire us, and really elevate the work that we do, because we know that there are challenges out there, but we want to focus on a positivity. So looking back on some of the work around Beijing and the anniversaries, we came up with this slogan of equality, exclamation point, peace, exclamation point, and justice, exclamation point, now. So we want everyone, if you will join us, maybe as a run through for, especially at the end of the session, when we open our cameras and we invite you to and open our microphones. We want to ask everyone to join in, we'll do the cheer: equality, peace, justice. When do we want it? Now. So we want you to join us in this and use it in your work, because this is what we're calling for. We're calling for equality. We're calling for access to justice, and we're calling for peace. And we see it in the chat. We're seeing how people are calling for peace, and we are reminded of that every day when we open our phones and see the news. So love the new slogan. Great. So we'll say equality, peace, justice. When do we want it? And you say now. Okay. All right. Ready, Pamela?
Ready?
Equality, peace,
Peace,
justice.
justice.
When do we
When do
want
we
it?
want it?
Now. Justice.
Now.
When
So
do
at
we
the
want it?
end, that's right.
Now.
So when we end the meeting, we're going to do it 3 times.
Okay.
We'll turn on our cameras, and 3 times we're going to do equality, peace, justice. When do we want it? Now. Rosa, thank you for that wonderful explanation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Okay, it's now time for our UN update, UN Women update. And Vivek is not here yet. So we will move forward with our introduction of our program. And when Vivek comes, we'll pause for the UN Women update, which is pretty vital because they're going to talk about CSW revitalization as well as UN 80. So I think that those topics are pretty critical. But at this time, we are simply delighted to begin our 2025-2026 CSW 70 program series with a focus on ensuring and strengthening access to justice for all women and girls. And we are really focused on how this can be applied in the workplace. It is our great honor to have the International Labor Organization, ILO Director, Cynthia Samuels-Olonjuwon, who will speak with us today, and she will offer an insightful analysis of the topic, exploring it through the crucial lens of the world of work. And she's going to reference the ILO's 3 pillars of ILO C-190, equal pay, and the care economy. Additionally, we will have Anita Thomas and Giulia Massobrio. And I'm going to turn the program over to Rosa to introduce the panelists and to moderate this session.
Great. Thank you so much, Pamela. And welcome to our wonderful panel. I just want to say that we are expecting Vivek Ray from UN Women to join us. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to sort of flip the program. But for now, we are thrilled to have the special representative to the UN and director of the ILO, Office of the United Nations, Madame Cynthia Samuels-Olonjuwon. And just by way of background, Ms. Samuels-Olonjuwon joined the ILO, International Labor Organization, in 1995 and has undertaken different responsibilities in the field and in Geneva, including Deputy Regional Director for Africa, Chief of the ILO Programming Unit for Africa, and Deputy Director of the ILO office in Pretoria. So I welcome you, Madame, to this session, and we will be listening with keenness for your inputs and wisdom. The floor is yours.
Thank you so very much, Rosa, Pamela. I see Gillian, Anita, all friends. Actually, I'm the one who is super excited, and Pamela can already attest to the fact that I was like a little girl, so excited about engaging with people of like mind. So I really thank you for inviting us to be part of this conversation. Indeed, I see this as a beginning of a long, fruitful, close, and dynamic relationship between the ILO here in New York and the CSW, NGO CSW. So thank you very much. What I will do based on the conversation we've had is to break this into 3 components, and the 4th will be the basis for our engagement. First, just to introduce the ILO, just break it down. What is the ILO? Many people do not necessarily know what the ILO is. How do we facilitate in a very practical manner justice for women and girls? And then thirdly, just take off from where Gillian stopped on WSSD to the World Summit for Social Development, and what are the implications for justice for girls and women. And the last part is, how do we work together? So first, what is the ILO? The ILO is the only specialized agency of the UN that has non-state actors having the same voting rights as governments. That is important, especially as we go forward. It's tripartite, employers, workers, and governments having the same voting rights. The core mandate of the ILO is promoting social justice through the advancement of decent work. Hence the focus of our conversation this morning on the world of work within the ambit of the theme of CSW 70. The ILO is also the oldest agency of the United Nations. It was established in 1919 through the Treaty of Versailles, along with the League of Nations. And it's the only major agency that was created at that time that still exists. At the collapse of the League of Nations and the establishment of the UN, the ILO became the first specialized agency in 1946. The social justice mandate of the ILO is at the core of its existence. It's not something new. In 1919, the constitution of the ILO, and I would quote from it, says that universal and lasting peace can be established only if it is based on social justice. So the anchor of the organization is social justice. Social justice is our remit, it's our DNA, it's our raison d'etre. The Declaration of Philadelphia in 1944 reaffirmed a couple of things that are very crucial even in our conversation today. One, labor is not a commodity. Secondly, poverty anywhere is a danger to prosperity everywhere. And that all people, irrespective of their gender, have the right to pursue their material well-being and spiritual development in conditions of freedom and dignity. In 1969, the ILO won the Nobel Peace Prize for its work on social justice and peace. So even though you didn't see my picture, when you talked about the 3 core themes of this body, equality, peace, and justice, I went, hooray, this is great. I was really super excited because it also aligns with what we were set up as the ILO for, that without social justice, we cannot have long-lasting peace. And we won the Nobel Peace. In 2023, the Global Coalition for Social Justice was launched by the ILO. And the focus is to strengthen multilateral cooperation on social justice, as well as accelerating progress towards the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I'm really pleased that many NGOs are part of the Global Coalition for Social Justice, and this is something that we might look at later. It is a platform to generate commitments, investment, and concrete actions that support social justice in alignment with national priorities. And one of the key transformative impact initiatives of the Global Coalition is the Equal Pay International Coalition. So what is justice and the social justice mandate of the ILO is operationalized through the Decent Work Agenda. And the Decent Work Agenda, as we all know, is the core of SDG 8. And this year, SDG 8 was under review. Okay, now, so how do we work? 4 major areas. The first is through international labor standards. And these are global standards that member states ratify. And based on their ratification, their national laws and legislations and policies are supposed to be consistent with these international labor standards. So we have, within the context of our conversation, there's the Convention 100, that's the Equal Remuneration Convention. There's the Convention 111, this is Employment and Occupation Convention that provides for non-discrimination based on gender and based on other parameters. The key thing is that these instruments are core for protecting the rights of women in the world of work. The second set of instruments that I will mention that is relevant for our conversation is the Maternity and Family Responsibilities Convention. We have Convention 183, Maternity Protection Convention, and then we have Convention 156, which is for workers with family responsibilities. And these safeguard the rights of women to maternity leave, job security, and protection against dismissal due to pregnancy. There's, of course, C190, and it's wonderful that Anita is here with us. And this an excellent example of how collaboration between the ILO constituents and the civil society organizations, especially for those that are promoting women's rights, how they can lead to catalytic change. I dare say that the Violence and Harassment Convention, C190, is a landmark convention. And it has a recommendation 206 that provides the framework to eliminate gender-based violence and harassment in the world of work. I'll come back to this later. Then, of course, there's another, these are recommendations and conventions and protocols. This make up the international labor standards. But there are also resolutions that have implications for protection of the rights of workers, and in this case, the rights of women as workers. And I'll make reference here to the ILO resolution on decent work and the care economy. This resolution was adopted last year in June, and it's historic. I put it at the same level as C190 in terms of its landmark dimension, because it's the first global global tripartite agreement on how we, one, recognize the care economy, and also seeing this as central for social justice, gender equality, and sustainable development. And then it provides a framework for member states to be able to design appropriate policies and legislations to address care, health, and social care policies. So the first one is in terms of our standards and our normative framework. The second is within the context of practical implementation. And I'll just focus on 2. One, technical assistance a lot of our standards have to be translated into national laws. They have to be translated into national instruments. And this is one area that the ILO provides support to member states, providing these member states to help them draft legislation, reform their labor legislation, ensuring that women's rights are legally protected. The second part of practical implementation is support for capacity building. And here, this training, engagement, not only with governments, not only with employers and unions, but on all those who are relevant to policy making, so that they are able to have gender-sensitive workplace practices and policies in place. Another dimension of capacity building is in terms of statistics, gender-sensitive statistics that are policy relevant and are useful within the context of labor market information. So that's the second part. The third part, and I'm highlighting this so that we identify how we work better together, whether it's at the global level, whether it's at the regional level, at the national level, or even here in New York. The third part is monitoring and reporting. And I'll look at this from two perspectives. For all the standards, the conventions that the ILO adopts, member states are expected to ratify. But upon ratification, they're expected to regularly report on implementation. And this is the key accountability measure. This applies to all instruments. However, we have a set of 12 instruments, 10 instruments that are recognized as fundamental principles and rights at work. And I'm really thrilled that 2 of these are very crucial for gender equality. All the others are relevant, but 2 of them are particularly relevant. This is Convention 100 that I mentioned earlier and Convention 111. Now, what does it mean with the fundamental principles and rights? It means that even when member states have not ratified, by virtue of being members of the ILO, they are obligated to report on progress being made, and there are accountability measures to ensure that they make progress around this issue. So it's binding on all member states. Now, the third part of how we support is through advocacy and global campaigns. And I'll highlight 3. 1, the gender equality agenda, which is major for us. And this is where we have the equal pay for work of equal value. The ILO runs global initiatives to reduce the gender pay gap, to promote women's leadership, and to expand decent work in the care economy. And one key example here is the Equal Pay International Coalition, EPIC, which acts at global, regional, and national level to support governments, employers, civil society organizations to take concrete steps to reduce the gender pay gap. And I'm really pleased that many civil society organizations are here. Every year in New York, we have events to advocate and to campaign. The second is around partnerships. And this we do in collaboration with UN Women. For the EPIC, we work very closely with UN Women and OECD, along with all the member states, civil society organizations, businesses, and trade unions. We work very closely with UN Women around so many initiatives and civil society organizations, particularly around C190. And I must say that Anita Thomas was one of those key drivers, and the civil society organizations based here in New York and globally really played a significant role in us, one, getting that milestone convention, but also facilitating speedy ratification. Of course, we need to work at the same level to ensure that there's implementation. We also work on awareness campaigns linked to different days that have been set apart, including the International Women's Days, to spotlight progress and challenges. And the surveys and research that we provide help to garner the evidence that strengthens both advocacy and identifying where we need to work and where we have been able to deliver results. The third part is on the Second World Summit for Social Development. And thanks to Gillian for the very good overview that she's presented. I want to just highlight 3 things concerning the political declaration, the Doha Declaration. The first one is that it is very, very significant because it helps to balance the social dimension of the Sustainable Development Agenda to sort of align with the emphasis that we've put on the economic and the environmental pillars. So it's a major, major shift. Building on Copenhagen, indeed, I joined the ILO, as was said by Rosa, in 1995. So it was the year of the Beijing, the Beijing meeting, and of course, the Copenhagen summit. And now, 30 years after, we're having the opportunity to revisit these to see how we can move the needle significantly forward. The second thing that is important about the Doha Political Declaration that I want to highlight is that it places full and productive employment and decent work at the very heart, at the center of inclusive social development. And decent work is not just framed as a labor issue, it's framed as a social justice issue. And the different dimensions of the social justice link with social development in a sustainable and inclusive manner is fairly well articulated. Then the third one is that the Doha Political Declaration calls for a lot of the issues that we're discussing today concerning eliminating barriers to women's economic empowerment, addressing violence, harassment, and discrimination in the world of work. But it also commits to recognizing, reducing, and redistributing unpaid care work and investments in quality public services, social protection, childcare. All these are issues that fall within our remit and issues that we can work together on, especially as we move to CSW 90. In conclusion, the ILO facilitates justice for women through setting up its global labor standards, partnership-based advocacy, and engagement at all levels, helping countries implement these standards, but more importantly, holding them accountable in a systematic, in a consistent and institutionalized manner. And indeed, we have had results, positive results of bringing about change based on the accountability measures that we have in the organization. In addition, of course, we work closely to empower women workers and their organizations in their demands. We want to work very closely with you. We want to engage, leveraging our different assets so that we're able to really significantly move the needle when it comes to justice for women and girls through the institutional arrangements that we have in the UN and more specifically in the ILO. I'll stop here, and my question is, how can we work together knowing what the ILO is, but how will we work together? I must say here, and I confessed already to Pamela, I'm not the world's greatest diplomat because I don't do well just having talks for the sake of having talks. I want us to be able to work and see how we use our engagements to make incremental change that results in the needle moving in the countries, in the regions, and even at the global level. We are available, we're excited about what you've done, and we're keen to work together with you here in New York and beyond. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for really bringing such synergy with the issues. Let's show some love in the chat for Madam Samuel-Olonjuwon, because what you've done is just really kind of put us on that path, not only with the Doha Social Summit, but looking towards CSW 70, talking about the issues of social justice and peace and not ignoring that, but also bringing in the issues of the care economy, which, you know, we will be hopefully hearing some about with our next speakers, and this tripartite agreement. Very important, social justice, gender equality, and sustainable development. So thank you so much for joining us. I like that you label yourself as a non-diplomat, because I think that that's what we need to do. We need, as mentioned in a meeting just yesterday, we need the super stakeholders approach. Okay, we need that to work together, NGOs, UN institutions, and others. So thank you so much. We will be bringing on our next speaker, who is Giulia Massobrio. If we can highlight, hi Giulia, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Let me just give a quick introduction. Giulia is a colleague. She's a coordinator of the Trade Union Development Corporation Network of the International Trade Union Confederation, ITUC, which represents 191 million workers in 169 countries and territories with 340 national affiliates. So this is a great way to promote the defense of workers' rights and interests. And we welcome you to talk to us about your work with the trade unions, the global campaigning and advocacy. And we know that you have extensive experience. We're putting your extended bio, all the bios in the chat, and turn it over to you, Giulia.
Thank you so much, Rosa, and thank you for this convening space. I think Cynthia's already said that, but this is so important. What we can do together, bringing different actors together, sharing information, and even sharing hope. No, what you did at the beginning with the joint slogan, I think that is very helpful these days where we feel so much negative energy around us, and we need also to galvanize members, no, and what we can do even in this context that is feeling heavy, I would say, some days. So I'm also very happy to share the panel with Cynthia and Anita. They are two fighters, really. So I'm honored to be here with you. So you have said it already, ITUC is the global network of trade unions. We used to define ourselves the UN of trade unions. So if you think of your country, you think of the national confederations in your country. For example, you're based in New York, FLCIO is one of our members. And if you take any country, we represent national trade unions. And we are the global voice, the global coordination space as ITUC. So I was asked to focus on Convention 190, and Cynthia has already said a lot on that. And as she said, ITUC is also a constituent of the ILO, and that's why ILO is so important to us. ILO is home to trade unions, employers' organizations, governments, and C190 is such a beautiful example of what tripartites can do, having a binding agreement, because convention, once ratified, become binding, as Cynthia said. And this is so powerful, I think, right now. So as you probably know, ITUC has been behind the adoption of Convention 190, like many of you. I think, again, this is an example of how partnerships can make a difference. And since the adoption, we have been using our network of 340 affiliates to push for ratification. And we always say it's not just about ratifying, it's ratification and effective implementation. And even if you don't ratify, we will push for compliance with the principles, with the content of the convention and the recommendation. So, as I said, we have been doing that through coalitions, governments, union, employers, feminist organizations, civil society at large. We have been working together to push for tackling and breaking the silence around the issue of gender-based violence and harassment. So I will highlight two strategies. The first one that has been key in our campaign on C190 has been organizing. When I say organizing, this is a key word, a buzzword for trade unions. That means bringing more and more women into trade unions that are traditionally more male-dominated organizations. And why do we want to have more women in trade unions? Because once they are there, and the more we see women in not only in unions but in leadership positions within unions, the more unions start to prioritize issues affecting women workers through campaigning, through social dialogue. And that means having more women negotiating collective bargaining agreements, including clauses on gender-based violence and harassment. So Cynthia referred to training, awareness raising. We have a program that we call Women in Leadership every year, where we have a specific training with young women that are members of our unions, and we give them content in terms of policy, but also communication tools, how to build a campaign. And we have been seeing many of these women becoming then leaders of very important unions. We have now women in top leadership positions from South Africa to unions in the US, France, Indonesia, Zimbabwe, Fiji, Kenya, Japan. I think we really see the difference now in how many women we have in the executive boards of trade unions and even as general secretaries, and what it means for trade union agendas. And specifically when it comes to gender-based violence and harassment in the world of work, this has been key to push for this topic up in the priorities of the trade union agendas. So that's strategy number one, organizing women workers. Strategy number two is pushing for compliance. So in countries where Convention 190 has been ratified, unions have been working to ensure compliance through concrete tools. And concrete tools are collective bargaining agreements signed at the enterprise level, at the sectorial level, at the national level, even at the international level with multinationals, so that all the supply chain must comply with those rules. And for example, we had a survey last year and we had a response from around 100 national unions. Half of them are currently negotiating workplace policies and collective bargaining agreements on gender-based violence and harassment. And 1/3 of them are engaging in discussion with employers to address concretely gender-based violence and harassment. We have several examples of what unions have been managing to get through collective bargaining agreements, from clauses on work relocation, emergency loans, paid leave from victims even of domestic violence. We see examples from Argentina, Indonesia, Senegal, Italy, Canada, Turkey. And Turkey is an example where Turkey has not ratified the convention, but unions in Turkey have been signing numerous collective bargaining agreements to prevent and respond to gender-based violence in the world of work. So what changes we have been seeing so far practically is more gender-responsive workplace policies, better grievance mechanisms, more and better protection for survivors of gender-based violence and harassment, including, again, those facing domestic violence, given its impact in the world of work, binding agreement even at the international level, going through the supply chains from the big multinational to the suppliers. And as I said, we have been seeing that our advocacy around Convention 190 led to more women organizing, more women taking up leadership positions in their unions, and that opened safe spaces for women workers to talk about gender-based violence and harassment, and helping to break the culture of silence. So what's next now? Obviously, we have progress, but we need to continue. We are pushing for more ratifications and for better implementation. We have been pushing for more money allocated to gender-based violence and harassment policies at the workplace. We have been pushing for more resources to finance collective bargaining processes that include clauses to have credible, compliant, and enforcement systems and timely remedies for violations. And again, we saw that organizing and collective bargaining has been, in our experience, the most powerful tool to have this cascade effect and basically to democratize workplaces to tackle gender-based violence and harassment. Cynthia referred to that, and also Rose and other colleagues. Despite the context, we have been winning many victories this year. CSW has very powerful language on women in the world of work at large, but also on gender-based violence and harassment in the world of work. The political declaration, hopefully, Giulia, nobody will break silence from now to November. But we do have a reference to gender-based violence and harassment in the world of work. And that's, in my view, thanks to all of us, not only working on each and every process, but pushing for policy coherence, telling governments we cannot work in silos. What we have been winning, what we won at the CSW in March cannot be ignored at the HLPF once we review SDG 5, cannot be ignored when we go to Doha and beyond in the follow-up. And when it comes to financing, the Compromiso of Sevilla must be, and its follow-up must be in line. So it's very much about linking the dots and keep reminding government, you have just agreed upon this language. You have to be consistent and you have to be ambitious. So in conclusion, from the International Trade Union movement, we think we need to keep pushing, we need to keep working together, and together means all of us that are committed to this cause. We just had an exhibition in July, ILO, UN Women, ITUC, but many of you were there on C190. And why? Because eradicating gender-based violence and harassment is not optional, it's essential for gender equality, for decent work, and for democracy at the workplace and in society. So you can definitely count on the ITUC to keep doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Giulia, and thank you for bringing in the Compromiso de Sevilla. Let us not forget it. It's so important. Let's show some love for Giulia in the chat. That was marvelous. Thank you for connecting all those dots. And especially, you know, bringing in this issue of the Convention 190, C190, and the safe spaces. Like, so important to know about that when we're pushing for access to justice. This will be very important for our next monthly in October. So we really want to thank you for joining us here. We're going to bring on Anita Thomas to complement also the words of the director and Giulia. Hello, Anita. Great to see you. Wonderful to have you here. Just let me introduce Anita Thomas. She is the main representative for Women First International Fund at the UN, providing grants for economic empowerment of women and girls globally. And she was elected in 2021 for the third term to serve as the chair of the NGO Committee on Financing for Development. Making that connection again, that's really great. And based on this is also working with the NGO Coalition to End Violence and Harassment in the World of Work with the NGO committees. So we thank you very much for being here. I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Pamela, for the kind invitation to speak today. Congratulations to both of you and to the newly elected executive committee. I'm truly honored to share this platform alongside Cynthia Samuels-Olonjuwon and to recognize a long-standing partnership that the ILO office has extended to the NGO Coalition and as well as to the NGO Committee on Financing for Development, which I chair. Without such partnerships, we as civil society cannot move forward. We cannot move the needle. And ILO's model of partnership is to be emulated across the board at the UN. And I keep reminding this in our meetings with other UN agencies, with member states, because such partnerships are crucial towards advancing the work that we all come together to advance. And so thank you, Cynthia, for the work that you do and your office and the support that you extend to us. The coalition is unique. The idea for it first took seed at a meeting of the NGO Committee on Financing for Development, where an ILO staff member spoke about generating civil society support to raise awareness of ILO C-190, which was just adopted at that point. That request followed a series of initial awareness raising meetings conducted jointly by the ILO office, the French mission, the NGO Committee on FFD in New York. And building on that momentum, I proposed to the ILO office an idea of a coalition of NGO committees, a common advocacy platform that could unite our efforts to advance ratification of C-190. And that led to a lot of conversations between the various committees, and we were formed in 2019. Now, while each of these NGO committees have their own distinct priority areas, we recognize that ensuring safe and decent workplaces is foundational for the work that we do, and to advance the priorities that each of us have. And so in 2019, the coalition comprising the NGO Committee on FFD, the NGO Committee on the Status of Women, Social Development, Migration, and the NGO Committee to Stop Trafficking in Persons convened came together. We drafted an advocacy letter. This was during the height of COVID. We convened and we drafted an advocacy letter. It was signed by 1,154 NGOs, and we submitted that to UN member states. And so I will share that in the chat as well as some of our strategy document, because it's very important that we galvanize momentum around this convention. It can make huge impact for people in the formal, the informal sector, and for women across the board. And so it's very important that we as civil society organizations galvanize. And I really want to extend my appreciation to NGO CSW, because with NGO CSW's huge following, we were able to really publicize the advocacy letter when we drafted it first, and then that is as well as the other NGO committees, and we were able to get the support from civil society organizations. And following this submission of the letter, the coalition has continued to organize several sessions. We organize side events, we organize strategy consultations, and this has all helped to catalyze consultations, outreach to missions, and global momentum. And this experience, as Cynthia mentioned earlier, I really appreciate Cynthia highlighting this coalition's partnership in her speech earlier, as well as Giulia, who has also come and spoke to us at our sessions. So it's great to be among friends and experts and advocates in this space. And as they underlined, this experience underscores the power of partnerships and the need to work across silos and build bridges if we are truly serious about moving the needle. So, colleagues, ILO Convention 190 is groundbreaking. It is the first international treaty to recognize the universal right of everyone to a world of work free from violence and harassment, including gender-based violence. This is regardless of your gender, nationality, status. The convention covers your workspace. And so it's very important that we galvanize momentum to get more ratification in place. It sets a global standard. Violence and harassment are not inevitable byproducts of employment. They are violations of human rights and obstacles to justice, equality, and dignity. Crucially, C-190 extends protection beyond formal workplaces to informal, agricultural, domestic, and platform-based workers, many of whom are women and remain outside the reach of national labor laws. It affirms that work happens at homes, in homes, on the streets, in the field and markets, and increasingly in digital spaces. But the standard alone are not enough. From civil society's vantage point, three imperatives emerge. First, translating commitments into action. To date, 50 countries have ratified the convention. A great progress from where it started out in 2018, but far from enough. Implementation requires political will, legal reform, robust institutions, and survivor-centered systems that allow women and girls to file complaints without fear of retaliation, and to access remedies that are swift and effective. Yet underreporting remains widespread due to fear, stigma, and weak enforcement. Without reliable data, progress risks being superficial. The 2024 Women, Business and Law report reminds us that 39 countries still lack legal protection against workplace sexual harassment. And globally, only 40% of the legal frameworks needed for workplace gender equality are in place. Secondly, centering intersectionality. Violence in the workplace disproportionately affects those already marginalized, young women, migrant workers, racial minorities, LGBTQI+ communities, persons with disabilities, and women in male-dominated informal or precarious sectors. The risks are greater where protections are weakened, especially when national laws do not cover informal sector workers in certain countries. Particularly, as I mentioned, in the informal economy, where over 60% of workers remain uncovered and harassment often goes unchecked. Third is ensuring accountability to collective power. Across the world, women-led trade unions, civil society organizations, and grassroots movements are bridging a gap, as Giulia highlighted. So it's important that we become engaged in these processes where we can come collectively to really help advance ratification by lobbying with our member states, with the parliamentarians, and to raise awareness of the challenges that we are seeing on the ground. Our work must also confront the new realities of digital transformation, which blur boundaries and expose workers, especially women, to new harms. While AI and digital tools can be misused for harassment, they also offer potential for prevention and accountability if governed responsibly with safeguards for consent, privacy, and dignity. And finally, none of these efforts can succeed without financing that is anchored in justice. So earlier it was mentioned, the compromiso de Sevilla. It's important that we really follow the money to make sure resources reach where it's needed the most. CSW 70 is crucial in this regard. And the priority team and the review team both really tie into C190 and its ratification. So my request to all of you as advocates is really follow the ratification process. Make sure if you have country level membership, really galvanize civil society support around this. The coalition itself is based in New York. We advocate directly with member states, but we are more than happy to provide you resources. And I'm going to link 3 documents. One is our advocacy letter, which is still very relevant, which guides our vision and the work that we do. Secondly is the strategic plan outcome document that came out of a consultation we did, which provides a lot of resources. And the third one is a link to the ILO website, providing the 50 countries that have ratified the convention. It's important that you take a look at that and see if your country has not ratified it, really, reach out to us or coordinate through NGO CSW to see how we can generate some momentum so that these governments ratify the convention. We have seen the impact when we actually approach gender ministers and ask them, how come you have not ratified? We see the next minute. And I don't want to mention governments, but we have seen instant reactions, like within a month's time, that the ratification process starts moving. So it's important that we come together, and I think CSW 70 will be a collective a space for all of us to come together to advance ratification. So thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Pamela,
so much,
for
Anita.
allowing me to speak. Thank you so much.
That was marvelous. I mean, that's really helping us to recharge, reignite, re-engage, and thank you for highlighting the power of partnerships and the financing as well. We're showing some love to Anita. Thank you so much for coming with us. At this point, I'm going to turn over to Pamela, my co-chair, to, I think we have our UN Women rep. So Pamela, over to you.
Thank you, Rosa, and thank you, Anita, and Giulia and Cynthia for those compelling presentations. Thank you. And we are quite pleased that our UN Women representative, Vivek Rai, is here to give us updates on UN Women. Thank you, Vivek.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, colleagues. Sorry for coming in late. But just in terms of updates, please let me know if there's anything specific that you want me to talk about. But in terms of CSW 70, as some of you are aware, we've just concluded our expert group meeting that took place last week on the topic of access to justice. Some of you were able to participate in it. A set of recommendations that have emerged from that expert group meeting will be made public very shortly, and those will then form the basis of the SG's report that we hope to have completed in the next few months, which will also serve as the basis of the zero draft of the agreed conclusions. So that was the first step that we have undertaken, the expert group meeting. It was a very rich set of discussions. We had a large cross-section of experts that joined us this year. We had 27 papers, short papers, but nevertheless, 27 papers that were, and we can share information about all of this with all of you so that you're also able to review and look at the papers. And as I said, there will be an outcome document. Sorry. There will also be an outcome document that will come up for those people who don't have necessarily the wherewithal to read all 27 papers. There will be an outcome document that will emerge from this expert group meeting, which we will also share. The next particular item that is emerging on the timeline that we need to be conscious of is around the statements that we submit every year. Those statements are going to be made available. The option to submit those statements will be made available on the 19th of September, which is in 3 days' time. So starting this 19th of September, you will be able to submit the statements, the written statements for the topic of access to justice, and that space will remain open till the 10th of October. So the deadline for the statements to be submitted is the 10th of October that we are looking at. In parallel to this, we are working with our regional colleagues who are working with the specific UN economic commissions to start the planning process for the regional meetings. We are expecting, I don't have exact dates for you as yet, but we're expecting all regional meetings to take place within this year itself. As you know, sometimes we go into the new year. Our hope and aspiration is for them to be all completed this year itself, but we don't have a specific set of dates. As and when we do, we can share those with you, but that will be the next kind of element in the timeline around CSW 70 that we need to be thinking of. This is essentially where we are currently. As far as CSW 70 is concerned, in terms of CSW revitalization, I think, Pam, you had mentioned that I should also sort of speak to that. In terms of that, you would have all seen the latest draft that has emerged, and we can where we are currently right now is that this process is now going into the space of the member states' decisions in terms of what they will put forth during the high-level UNGA week, and what decisions will be made. What will be that resolution that will be passed? We don't have a sense of that right now, but we are in the last stages of those discussions as yet. So in terms of what civil society could potentially do at this point of time, really it is only to kind of like continue to mobilize and advocate with your member states to see some kind of a progressive decision on the recommendations of CSW revitalizations. This thing. Our sense is, and this is just a sense, I don't have a fixed sort of information on this, but our sense is that the resolution that is eventually passed will be a more general one, and that will open up space for further resolutions to take place over a period of time. So what will CSW revitalization finally look like? We don't know. A more general resolution is what we see emerging out of this UNGA, with something more specific going forward. In terms of the sharing the latest draft, Ivy, yes, we can circulate that. I can share it with Pam and Rosa and you, and then if you can circulate it within the larger group, we would certainly be able to do that. I'm on my phone, so I'm not being able to see everything on the chat. In terms of Susan's question around the number of words, I will have to confirm that, and I will come back to you around that. I'm not aware of the fact that it has been curtailed, the number, Susan, but I can double check that. The reality is, colleagues, just for you to know, on a more general level, things are happening within the UN which even we are trying to keep track of, right? With the kind of cuts, the budgetary cuts that we're seeing at the main UN, at the UN Secretariat, some of this information is also coming as news to us. So, as and when we get that information, we shall make sure to share it with you. But I think on a more generic level, I think it's important to highlight that there are a number of cuts that are taking place within the UN Secretariat, which I think you're all aware of as part of the SG's budgetary cuts. And those are having implications on everything else, including intergovernmental meetings. What that specifically means in terms of the Commission on the Status of Women, we do not have a clear sense right now. But rest assured, as and when that information becomes available, we will continue to share that with you. If that means, curtailing of word limits, if that means less meetings, we will share that with you. We have already spoken with Pamela and Rosa, and I'm sure they've shared with you. We will see some kind of restrictions, including in terms of bookings of rooms, availability of interpretation services, even where we can pay for them. All these things are cuts that we can foresee, and so I think it is good and prudent that even before that happens, that we also think of alternative plans for the actual CSW as well, in terms of what we can and potentially expect to see, including around the NGO briefings, etc. And I know NGO CSW New York is thinking about at least alternative arrangements already, these things. But we are keeping the door open to conversations so that because none of these are actual decisions that have taken place. We are just being preemptive here. So let me just stop here and see if that's helpful, and if there's anything else that Pamela or Rosa you'd like me to address.
Vivek, is there any update on UN 80?
On Unit 80, that's a larger question, and as you know, that is purely in the hands of member states, and it is hard to have a clear-cut readout on what will emerge. I know there are discussions that are taking place even as we speak. I know that the SG's office has circulated a letter to the UN staff about the fact that there will be cuts that will take place, both in terms of staffing as well as in terms of resources that are available. But what they mean in terms of specificities, what that means in terms of, your guess is as good as mine, Pamela. I know there are talks around mergers, it talks about, cost efficiencies and things like that. At this point of time, I don't have that information at hand in terms of the clarity around this. A lot of this is, so much of this is based on hearsay that I think it's better to maybe just wait and see in terms of what will specifically come out, rather than create, more panic than we already have. So I don't actually have that information right now in terms of Unit 80, but I think by the end of next week, we will have a clear-cut sense of what is happening.
Thank you, Vivek. And in the chat, Ivy has a question. Is the Women, Peace and Security open debate date confirmed for 6th of October?
I believe there is a case. My Women, Peace and Security colleagues are sitting outside, but I don't have the wherewithal to jump out and check with them, but I can let you know within 5 minutes of this meeting whether that date still stands. Okay. Sarah Douglas, our deputy of the Women, Peace and Security, is sitting right outside my office. I will double check and share that with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And I think also Sabine had a question, sorry, about which day CSW revitalization resolution will be presented or discussed?
I don't have that date with me, Rosa, but again, we can share that. Just for you to also know that there are certain things that are up on the UN website in terms of dates. So I think that's one place to go to. But to the point that you are making, and to the question that Sabine has asked, these are also changing. Dates are changing. There was a small possibility that our date of the high-level event on Beijing Plus 30, which is on the 22nd of September, as you know, might have had to change because of the discussions that are taking place on Palestine. Fortunately, now that has been resolved, and we will stay. But the issue at hand is the dates are changing, even so close to the actual event. I mean, there are changes that are happening, and we can expect that to happen, I'm afraid, but we can share the tentative dates with you ASAP, with the caveat, as I said, that there may be potential changes that will happen as we go into the high-level week. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Great.
Vivek. And I know
Thank
you
you
left
so
the meeting
much.
to be with us. And
No worries.
please know how much we appreciate your support and your solidarity. So thank you. Let's give Vivek a hand, everyone.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, and happy to be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
So it's 12:31. We're a minute past time. However, we want to end our meeting with our usual turning on our cameras and the slogan that we spoke about. We're going to, that's right, Rosa, it's in the chat. And Rosa, do you want to lead us in the chat? I mean, in the slogan?
Okay, we practiced it once. So please, everyone, when I say, what do we want? Everyone says now. So equality, peace, justice. What do we want?
Now.
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 Please open your
Now.
videos. Open your equality, peace, justice. We want it now. We want equality, peace, justice.
Now.
Thank you.
Ready. Bye. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Adios.
everyone.
Hasta luego.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios. Great way to start the year. Thank you.
Bye-bye.